the most important thing you learned professionally about acting when you're in the field?
It's a tough one because I feel like I'm constantly learning new things that are so important that I didn't know before. But I think the most important thing is that no matter where you are in your career, the most important thing is the work. Like always keeping up on lessons. And it's hard when you get busy, but not just like, working on your own material. I think that you have to work on your own material and that you have to keep doing lessons just for other stuff to get you out of whatever character you're working on. Because even when I'm doing Layla, I feel like we still need to be doing other scenes because it's just like anything, you have to keep it going. It's just like vocal training, or if you're an athlete, you have to keep practicing.
You were telling me that when you were shooting like the last day of Anne Frank, it was like a breakthrough day for you.
It really was. I mean, and I still think after that I had like so much work to do. Did we shoot that? We shot that right before I did Nashville, right? I know we did the first one right before the first shoot day. But I still feel like I had to learn so much. I feel like I learned so much doing season 2 of Nashville with you. Like, that's when I had maybe my like biggest breakthrough acting. I feel like we're constantly having little breakthroughs. I don't mean to ramble. But that day was like so special to me because I had been having like a really hard time crying. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but that's the day that you taught me like the secrets to really tapping into that emotion like in a healthy way. And I remember the night before, I don't know if you remember this, but I had a dream right before we shot. I remember because I was so scared that I wasn't going to like be emotionally present. I was having all kinds of like, I don't know, hesitancies in my work. And that day, like that night, I had that dream. And the dream was I was back in my backyard, like where I grew up. And there were the snakes? There were all those snakes. And then you appeared and you like told me where to step to avoid the snakes. It was just beautiful. And it was like really special because I feel like, I don't even remember why, but I was using my backyard as a basis like to remember home kind of. In relation to, having a distant memory of where you grew up and that being far away kind of, and so the fact that came into that dream and then like you were there to kind of guide me out of like what I consider the demons or like the difficulties in the work was, I don't know why that dream just it affected me so much. And then the next day I really felt like you guided me so well through everything, and I also just was there because I had been so nervous up until that point, like, oh, I can't cry, oh, I can't be there. And then I feel like at that point we had been talking about it, and it just clicked. And that day was like very emotional. I feel like that was one of the most honest performances I had had, or the most honest performance I had had up until that point. And so that's why I feel like it was a breakthrough.
Nashville. What have you learned working on that?
So much. I mean, I had never had a character that was going to be exposed so much. I never had a character on like national television that lasted that long. And the longevity of this character has been such a lesson. Finding, like having a character arc, I've never had to do that before, because before that, I really just had a few really short films where my character didn't really go through. I mean, Sharknado does not count, you know what I mean? That's not like an emotional journey, really. But I had never really had a character like grow and change. I'd never have to deal with that. And also just really learning how to keep up your energy on set and all kinds of things. But honestly, obviously, the most important things that I've learned was just working on character development with you that first season and realizing like that it takes a lot of hard work. It doesn't take just showing up and like thinking you can be present. With Layla, I just realized how important working hard and putting in the preparation is, at least for me, and what we do. And I think I really learned that you have to really keep it up, keep up the lessons, keep up working on the character, because at the end of the day, like not only do you need to keep up your chops, but people want to see a character that grows and changes and that they can like travel with. And I think that's honestly why my character has lasted so long. At least I personally believe that, because the first season I feel like there were a lot of different directions the character have gone in. I think the writers and me didn't really know who she was necessarily. And I think towards the end of the season, we started discovering who she was. And I think that's because of the emotional work that we were putting into her. And I think that by the time season 3 came around, that's why my character really has stuck around this long, and now I'm a series regular. So I think hard work is everything.
I remember when you got on the show, and I remember that they had brought on several new people.
Yeah,
and
a
you
lot.
know that, and we through the grapevine we heard that there was a lot of cast now.
Right.
And even the producers were concerned.
Right, yeah.
So we kind of knew that...
We knew we had to fight because there were so many new characters, and there were already a lot of characters. We were like, okay, how do we, stake our claim in the show?
What was so much fun was you started as a guest star.
Yeah. I started with, I want to say, a 7 out of 13, so I was only supposed to do 7 episodes and then just see where it went. And yeah, I mean, I'm just fortunate enough that they stuck with me, and then we discovered her, and it's been amazing. I mean, working on that show has been a dream come true. It's been so challenging because, like I said, I've never had a character grow and change and be with a character. I've never been with a character for so long, and also because I think like towards the end of season 2, they really started seeing that I could go to a very dark place because of the emotional work that we were putting in. I think because of that, they've given like my character this whole dark side, and so that's very challenging. That she grapples with so many things, and she's young and confused, and that's really hard. It's emotionally challenging work, but at the same time, it's the most gratifying, and that's where I've really learned the most about how to act.
What is it about my classes that has made a difference for you?
It's made all the difference. I mean, literally everything that I have really learned about acting has come from you, and just experience, like being on set. But all the emotional work has come from you, obviously. I know that sounds like cheesy and like I'm, just flattering you so much, but it's really true. Like when I first took your class, even when I first just auditioned and we met for the first time, even things that you would say that I felt like I knew maybe subconsciously or were small, like the way that you would describe things just automatically started changing things and started really giving me a clearer vision of what the goals are with the work. And the biggest things that I think I use a lot, I mean, obviously the sacrifices, ever since we did that work, like that has been so life-changing to think about. And fire, I love that, the fire questions. I mean, just there are so many tools that you have given me because I had no real training before you, and I know that's like the first thing that we were like, okay, we got to get you training. But just being trained from you because you
had some classes.
Some, but not really. They were like, I mean, I had taken some classes that were more, they weren't necessarily scene work oriented, but they were definitely about like working with other people more, I think, than really like breaking down a character at the end of the day. And I mean, I could just go on and on and on. I feel like I'm continuing to learn so much from you. And again, just about always working at your character and always really like just delving into it. I don't even know how to, that answer is so encompassing for everything to me. Like I really feel like everything about your classes has affected me. Even from just watching you watch other people and how you like see things is just so inspiring, and just automatically started making a difference just being around you. But it's true. I really mean that with my whole heart.
How did your auditions change after we started working together?
Ooh, that's a great, oh wow. My auditions changed so much. My auditions became a lot more grounded after we started working together.
I felt like your work became more substantial.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that with auditions and with just work on characters in general, just everything.
Even recently, I think there was a character we worked on that you booked, but you couldn't end up taking. Do you remember that one?
Yes. Oh, wow. That was a great script.
And I think I turned the performance completely around.
You did completely. You really opened up that character so much. I wanted that so badly. I was so glad I booked it. I was so sad that it didn't work with my schedule. But that was beautiful. Yeah, again, you just like, you make me think about the things that I wouldn't have thought about otherwise. Not that I wouldn't have thought about otherwise, but just in such a way that you just really help drop in. I know that, everyone says like, oh, that's when I dropped into my character. But it's really true. Like, I feel like with that character, you made me realize, oh, she's defensive, And I think that what you've taught me is that I feel like when I started out, I worried about being too big or, being this or being that or like being immature and like people not liking that. But you made me realize that it doesn't really matter because characters can be however they are. And I think you made me realize that I really want to do character work. You know what I mean? And I don't mean necessarily be like the slapstick funny girl. I mean like really create a whole character, not just be like a believable natural girl. Like you really helped me understand that people are way more complex than that, and it's much more interesting to have bold choices than just be believable.
What about you as an artist?
What about?
Well, what do you want to say as an artist?
That's a tough question. I think at the end of the day, as an artist, I just want to be relatable. You know, I just, it's going to sound so cheeseball, but I think at the end of the day, the reason that acting is special is because you might move someone, you know, you might make someone feel something, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think you can find that in music and in anything, but I think if you see someone struggling with something that maybe you felt before, that can be very therapeutic. And it was crazy. My stylist who saw the film has been dealing with something that my character in Gem of the Holograms was dealing with, and she was like crying, and she was like, that was so therapeutic for me that I can completely relate to that. And she's like a grown woman, you know what I mean? Like, and this was a children's movie, and the fact that she said that to me was everything. And I'm not trying to like say that I accomplished that or, you know, that I did a great job. I just, that is why, you know what I mean? I feel like at the end of the day, that is what is so special about any entertainment industry. And that's why you do it.
You know, it's so wonderful. I remember the day, the episode where you shifted in your work on Layla.
Which one? I remember when we had that conversation, you were like, you got to get your you know what together.
Yeah, I remember that. But tell me a little bit about that.
That was huge for me because I feel like I was in a very weird place, health-wise and emotion-wise, in my personal life when I booked Layla, and I didn't realize it, and I was very distracted, and I wasn't focused, and I wasn't doing what I needed to really create a character. And like I said, I was not taking risks. I was not really creating a dynamic character. I just thought I was being believable, and that's not what a human is, you know. And I don't know. I just remember that I was really scared as Layla to really create her, and I just was in a weird place, especially with moving to Nashville. Like, there were so many things, and I was just distracted. And when we had that conversation, you really just opened my eyes that it doesn't matter. Like, you can even use that to create a character, but it does, like, at the end of the day, you have to be focused on your job, and you have to put in the hard work.
You were pretty prepared, though. You just did Rage with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
You had done Sharknado.
I think I was ready for the opportunity, totally. But I think that you definitely opened my eyes that I need to focus to really take hold of the opportunity and give it what it deserves.
So how did you feel that day?
Can I swear?
Yeah.
Really shitty. Oh my God, I was bawling because I realized that we have such a special bond. You know, I feel like to me it goes beyond actor and coach, and I let you down. And I was just like, oh no, I disappointed her, and that made me realize that I was also disappointing myself. And I just didn't even realize that I wasn't focusing, you know. It was just, and it wasn't even like, it's not like I was partying or doing anything else. It's just that I wasn't really giving Layla what she deserved, and I wasn't doing myself justice or anyone else justice. You know, I wasn't really saying anything with her. And you just made me realize that, because I didn't even realize it. And then I was crying, and I remember being like, I'm so sorry, I didn't even know. But that's the thing is you have to really treat your characters with care. Layla's suicide scene was very difficult. That was something that I really had to be brave for. And I think Layla in general, I feel like we're very different, but at the same time I think she's faced a lot of similar things that I've faced. Not necessarily like in her love life or anything, but emotionally I think she's gone through a lot that I have gone through. And going to those places is scary, but you have helped me be brave to bring how I can relate to Layla to her without going, you know, to my own personal life. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I feel like you've really helped me be brave in that way, to really go to places that maybe I've been in my own life, but as a character instead of as me. And there has to be that distinction. And I think that it's scary at first, being like, okay, I have to act this thing that, I'm not just talking about that scene. I'm talking about like just any, even a small thing. I think it takes courage to go to a place that you can relate to, whether it's, really emotional and sad or whatever it is. But I think doing that as a character is different, and and once, if you really are there as your character, then it helps even get over what you've been through in the past. And I don't know. I think that those emotional challenges as Layla has been the most courageous thing I've done. I think that there are other things that have been maybe more difficult, but I think that's when I've been bravest in my work.
So are you ever afraid?
Yeah. Oh my God, all the time.
I remember when you used to tell me I never get afraid.
I never get afraid. That was before we really had a good conversation about it. I never used to get afraid. Well, because I always wanted to be fearless. You know what I mean? I always wanted to be fearless in the work, but for a while I wasn't. You're not there. You know what I mean? Like you're not. It was mostly about layering at the time, because we needed Layla to have more going on. You know what I mean? And there were opportunities that I think that I didn't necessarily go all the way there. You know what I mean? I remember that was a big thing, that you were like, you don't have the emotional work underneath the words that you're saying. And I was just like, oh no. It was like awful, but it was true. So I think that at first I was afraid to go there, and I didn't really realize it. And then once I realized that I wasn't going there, I was really afraid, because I was like, oh shoot, like I'm not going there. What's going to happen to my character? But I think that just fueled me to work harder. And I'm always afraid, like, I don't know, I think I'm very self-critical, so I don't even know if it's being afraid, but it's very much like, well, gosh, that's on national television. How was that? You know what I mean? But I think that just fuels me to constantly work harder, so that's okay.
I think you have a high standard.
I do.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. I think partially because this is such a passion of mine. I want to be really good at it. It's what I do, you know what I mean? And I don't really do much else, so I feel like I should be good at it. And I think because there are so many people who are so much better than me, like there's so many actors I so respect, I feel like I'm constantly being inspired and constantly like, wow, like I want to do that. And I think that just comes from me being passionate about what I do. That sounds cheesy, but it's like, it's what I'm passionate about. It's everything to me.
Is there an actor that you particularly want to work with?
I wanted to work with Juliette Lewis for the longest time, so that was really cool. I would love to work with Leonardo DiCaprio. I love him. I don't know. There are so many people I respect so much. That's so hard. I feel like I could go on and on and on. There are just too many people who are good. I just want to work with good people, you know? I mean, like, good actors. I don't even care if they're, like, shitty people. I just want to work with people who I can really, like, play off of in a scene.
Before all this happened, way back in the day, you were working in my office. Remember?
Yes. Yeah, I totally remember, yeah.
And what about coming here as a young woman?
Yeah.
And the loneliness and the isolation?
Yeah.
And then, you know, your life is so much better now, and it's so much easier. There's so much more for you. But what would you tell that young woman?
I mean, I think the loneliness and the confusion and the figuring everything out is basically a huge part of what I was saying, you know, is part of like what I was dealing with, and I didn't quite know how to deal with it. But I think that that's something that a lot of young people go through. Just everybody, just trying to figure out how to deal with loneliness and how to deal with yourself. Who are you? You know, all the classic like struggles that people go through. And I think that I feel like we talked about loneliness at one point, that and you said something, this just helped me in my personal life and in turn then helped me in my character work. But loneliness is always going to be there, even if, I mean, I feel like that is something that people need to realize and that people need to kind of figure out how to deal with, because loneliness is always going to be there, even if your life is full of fulfillment and success and you're happy. Like, I feel like even if you are very comfortable with where things are in your life, there are always going to be moments of loneliness, because there is always loneliness with like figuring out who you are. Even if you think you know who you are, there's always times when maybe you're by yourself, you know, or you're traveling by yourself and you have to spend time with yourself. And there's always a loneliness in that, but it doesn't have to be a sad thing. It can be a good thing. You know, I think learning to spend time with yourself and enjoy it is huge. And in a way, you helped me with that, because you just said, listen, people are always lonely, and you just have to learn how to deal with it. You said something like that in a very Kimberly way, and I was like, that's interesting. Like, I think whether it's loneliness or whatever you're dealing with, accepting it is huge. I think not being like, why is this here? You know, I mean, I think it would be great to find the root of the problem for everyone, but I think at the end of the day, it's learning to be like, okay, this is here. What do we do? Yeah.
Is there anything you'd love to tell me at this point?
Just thank you, you know, for everything. I mean that. I'm getting like a little choked up just because we've come so far and so long together. I mean, and it has meant everything to me. It's really shaped my work so far and will continue to shape it, and I don't know what I would do without it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks.